Love Me is the new film directed by Andy and Sam Zucchero, starring Kristen Stewart and Stephen Yeun, which takes place long after humanity's extinction from Earth, following a buoy and a satellite who meet and fall in love. We are live from the 2024 Sundance Film Festival. I am your co-host, Zachary Shevich, joined by Amanda the Buoy and Satellite Zurita.
Damn, you didn't get to be the satellite. Oh, no. Fought hard for it. He made me audition twice.
I know. It's fine. It's fine. I'm happy. I'm in good company.
Good.
With my buoys.
Yeah, hey, at least you got the buoy.
Yeah, I'm happy.
There's a lot of hype around this one because not only...
I had a lot of hype around this
Yeah.
film.
Me
This was one
too.
of my most anticipated. I paid real money to see
Same.
this one out of all of the
I had a
movies that
ticket
we
for
have
this
here.
morning, and I paid
Yeah.
for a premiere when it popped up.
It's a big deal to be there for the premieres, and it's like, is it going to be worth that
Absolutely.
$20-something investment to be there in the room when they're showing it for the first time? Like, we go back and we were hearing them talk about Donnie Darko. It's like, damn, I want to be in that room. Whiplash, I want to be in that room. Like, what is the energy coming out of it? What was the energy coming out of this one? It was cute. It was cute.
Yeah, it's an interesting film and an ambitious one in many ways for sure, because it is a film that takes place across several billion years and it involves inanimate objects like becoming personified in certain ways. And I think there's a lot about it that's really lovely, but it also really drags and kind of fails to continue innovating or continue finding new interesting things to uncover. I don't know. I had a decent time with it, but I also can't see myself revisiting it anytime soon.
Amanda's the one who calls it a 3-hour, 93-minute movie.
Yeah, no. I
pretty short.
I think Ehrlicher said it best, where he was like, "It's a 92 billion minute movie for." Well, because the whole thing is that like, oh, it's 5 billion years, and then
And
it's
that
like
part's
a billion.
cute.
It's cute. I like that part. There's really good parts, and it did feel very long. It wasn't until it was done that I was like, oh my God, that was one of the shortest movies of the festival. It felt so long because it does just keep retreading the same thing over. And every time you think it's going to do something new, suddenly you're like, oh my God, we're back on this? Wow. They didn't already deal with this? That's the points? That's the direction you're going? Why? I'm so annoyed.
And it's really sweet, and there's some like really funny jokes, but it just kind of overstays its welcome. I was saying that I think this would have made for a really killer Black Mirror episode, like in the same vein as something like San Junipero, which is a little more optimistic than you get in your normal Black Mirror episode. But it's an interesting...
93, you have one too.
Right. I mean, I was hoping they'd maybe shorten it to like a 60, but
there are things you could cut.
Yeah, it's interesting in that the way that it like... is sort of an extension of technology and forward looking and kind of has a doomed aspect to it too.
Sure.
But it just doesn't dig as deeply as I think any of us would have liked to. So I don't know. Is this something that you even recommend? Is this something that people should wait on?
I'm trying to think of what other past ones there would be, because I do think that this is something that there may be an audience for. This is also, as of this recording, has not been picked up, if I'm not mistaken. Like, it's not A24 or Netflix or anything. I don't know if you guys have anything that you think it would be the best at. I was watching this and I'm like, all right, screw it. Apple. You're talking about it being like a meta type ad.
That's somebody else.
Obviously,
I took that to
Apple's
somebody
about
else. I
to-
saw that in a review, and I was like, "That's exactly what it looks like. It looks like if Zuckerberg got the legs right the first time."
For the metaverse.
About it being like a video game where you make your
Worse.
own emojis and
Yeah,
stuff.
but, like,
There's a lot of
bad
things that they're hyping up in this movie that I don't know how much they want to keep cryptic. You're gonna have to say some of it for the trailer, because of the way that the movie is segmented from when these objects meet and how they meet.
It's the kind of film that I think would have gone to like an oscilloscope or an IFC films if you don't have people like Kristen Stewart and Stephen Yeun attached.
Exactly.
They're too big. And I think that's the one thing that we're giving a lot of leeway for. We're like, okay, you have decided to make a movie about AI and robots, and the last things that survived after the Earth was like demolished.
What humanity left behind.
And it's still humans just going, well, this is what I think the AI would think. It's like a couple got together and they're like, how do we just apply everything that we've been going through to these robots? And it's like, but they're robots. And they're specific robots. They did nothing to really put you in the mind of how a robot would think differently. Or like you were saying, what interesting routes are they going to take of like...
And they don't.
Have, how many... It's like petabytes of information to go through of humanity. And this is what they stuck with.
Yeah.
And I think all of us agree that it could have gone a little bit deeper, but for what they're going for, if you understand that and you don't reach for the stars, I guess, with a concept like this, it's cute.
But
it's
then it
fine.
just overstays its welcome. And
It
it's
does
just,
overstay
it's the
it.
same thing
It's
over
only
and
93
over.
minutes.
It's the same thing over and over. That's what I mean. I walked out of this. I'm like, that was cute. That was nice. It's just the more I think about it, the more I'm like, what did it do?
Amanda has a manifesto against this movie.
I'm getting there, and it sucks because it's like, I love Stephen Yeun. Y'all know how I feel about Kristen Stewart, #1 fan here. Actually, I
She's
can't.
on the
I'm not even the
balcony.
#1 fan
the
at
guy
this
next to you
festival.
was raising his hand to ask a question. You were like,
I was trying. I was like, she'll perceive me.
she looks over. She goes, if she stares over here, she will feel my presence.
She'll see my beanie. It's orange, you know? Like,
It's funny.
I swear I'm not weird. She's married. I'm very happy for her.
No, but I think
but
the
yeah.
thing that you're talking about is that the film eventually just starts to really go in circles. They
It
start
does.
to literally go in circles at a certain point. It's a shame because I think there is a lot of really interesting stuff here. I love the ambition of it, the scope of it. It's really bold, but it you know, you mentioned how it doesn't really put you into the head of what these, you know, robots or AI would be feeling or how they'd be progressing. There's like fleeting moments where they do, but they abandon it. They abandon it
But
really
it's
so
quick.
fast.
Yeah, but it's not even what they're thinking. They're like, what would a robot do? It'd probably go this way. No, humans would relate this
they
way.
watched the opening scene of WALL-E.
Well, that's the thing. They obviously really love WALL-E. Like,
Yeah, I
live
was
action
making
WALL-E.
jokes, like just little jokes. I was like, WALL-E goes west. Like, just
Wally
like,
goes,
you
I
know,
call
like,
it buoy,
yeah.
which, you know, if you don't like the movie, just don't even put the U,
Boo-ee.
just buoy.
Yeah.
Boo-ee,
There you go.
boo. Yeah.
It's cute. We just, I think, go into these movies, like, especially when they're hyping it up the way that they were.
It won an award.
It won an award before the fest even starts, and that would be the
Alfred P. Sloan Award.
It's a big award for tech movies, and the one thing that we've noticed here, you know, enough time and with the people that we've spoken to at the festival, that's like one of those awards that's like already set in stone before the festival starts. They've already like figured out who it's going to go to. They haven't seen the other movies, and you know, we haven't finished everything. I'm sure something else could have gotten it, but maybe Thelma, because she used that scooter like crazy. But it, you know, it goes through billions of years, and what technology is. So I guess I get it. But even for one of my favorites, Searching, you know, to be honest about it, I know that Searching was a movie that won that award because it already had kind of like its funding and its through line through Google and the work
Yeah.
that they were doing there.
But it followed through its premise. It was like, this is what we want to
You know, I
do.
only picked the best ones. You know,
That's
I'd
what I
be here
mean.
praising this movie
Exactly.
if it was just as good. But
That's
sadly,
what I mean. It's
cute.
It's cute. Another issue I have, it just feels like people also putting things into a movie that I didn't feel like they understood.
Yes.
There is a
So
inch-
we
there's
can
a-
I think we're going to try and dive a little bit more into the plot.
Oh,
So
okay.
if there are people who are like trying to stay as like spoiler free as possible,
fair.
then this might be a decent off ramp. But yeah,
I wasn't going to go heavy on it, but
No,
just,
no,
no,
like,
it makes
When
sense.
the buoy killed the satellite,
Let's go in.
let's talk about it a little bit.
All
Continue
right.
your point.
So just there's just kind of this aspect to the movie where they come across influencers, and what an influencer is, and they didn't understand it. I get it. Like I figure you're gonna make a movie like this, you are gonna be putting the camera on the influencer. We all know issues with influencers, even though we all dance with.
but out of everything in
Influence.
the world, why did they feel the need? This is what the AI would attach
This
to.
is what
Right.
they.
Out of all the TV series and the Netflix shows that have been saved on this thing.
It feels a little bit like they had the thought, if all that's going to be left
Yeah.
of humanity is like our social media presence,
I
then
like that.
what is the consequence of that? And that's an interesting like jumping off point, but that's kind of all it is.
And they abandoned it
Yeah.
because they were like,
Bro,
"That's
they
not
didn't
what we
have
actually
YouTube.
want." I think they started doing that and then realized, "Oh, we're not actually interested about the influencer thing or what like humanity leaving behind influencer cultures. We're interested in how these two things use that to build this like
But
unconventional
why?
love story that
Out
I
of
know."
all the information that it had Google, had everything else. I respect that they shouted out YouTube. It's not even YouTube because they don't really put
No.
Google or anything.
They took it, but
It's
it is
YouTube, though.
It's YouTube.
We know it's YouTube, exactly. I'm sorry, but there'd be so many other things that it would have pulled from.
not if
Even
you were
if we're
looking.
just
If you were
sticking
looking
to YouTube alone.
I feel like if you were looking for like what it means to be a human, I could see that you would start getting shown lifestyle blogs. What is life form? You would get shown lifestyle vlog. You would get spit
Sure.
people like the McBrooms. You would
And
get
a regular person would stop there. And AI would have processed all of that information.
exactly in 2 seconds. That's what I mean. But that's the thing. She starts it. She's a very basic AI. Is the thing. So I think that's why. I think
Sure.
she hit it, and then she had to use that. It's my question is like, why didn't the satellite already know more?
I would also argue they were doing a little too much emotions at the beginning. With
Right,
the
yeah,
boy.
like
If we're getting like nitpicky with it,
No,
but if
'cause
we're
it's-
being honest.
yeah, I mean, like we can be pedantic and say like, oh, that doesn't feel like it's right, but it's also like they're trying to sort of get across the experience of like realizing who you are, having a self-perception, but then it just starts in a place that doesn't necessarily feel motivated. I don't know.
Fake.
It feels fake. It feels
That's
fake.
what I mean. The whole line in the movie, they keep repeating,
Surprisingly,
it feels fake.
It feels
fake.
Yeah.
By the end of the movie feels fake.
Because it could have gone to more authentic places.
And they didn't get there. And I'm sorry, like, we're coming off the back of things like, we were talking like Everything Everywhere All at Once. Things like Past Lives, even to like the most simple iteration of how humans can interact.
Black Mirror
and how
episodes
things,
he was talking
Black
about.
Mirror episodes. Just, we've been here before, better and deeper. And I think it's just the fact that we have the powerhouse performances of two renowned actors in this, and like this is the output, this is the final piece.
Yeah. Speaking of which, what did you think of Kristen and of Steven?
I think Kristen was kind of, unfortunately, she says it in the interview that it's kind of like you can bring any kind of preconceived notion you have, anything, any interaction, any feeling to this character.
Which was
There's
interesting.
No character.
Yes, I think that's the one thing we're splitting on. Like,
And it
what
felt like a
movies,
dig.
what movies choose to be universal and which ones want that specificity. I think that the way that they approach these two, and this is what you and I have been discussing, I don't know if they owe them a favor or something, and they were obligated to be here, whatever else. But the movie, without spoiling it, is in 3 parts for them. I would say voiceover, a tech that they're using in this movie that I guess they don't want to spoil, but it's kind of already out there. We don't think it's impressive, and you've already seen it, so it feels really weird to have to do this little dance. But they're gonna have to show it in the commercials.
It's already out there. Somebody asked.
Yeah.
Somebody asked me point blank on Twitter.
I believe that they also had to limit that because at a certain point, we were discussing this yesterday, how much of that in a movie do you have before it gets considered that type of...
And it was
like
already,
an animated film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was to me, it was already not to be an animated, but it was already too much. That whole section overstays its welcome so hard.
And then you have moments with them being live action, which they even had said, this is one thing from the Q&A, is that they were not supposed to play other parts, like from the memory bank. They were only supposed to be like the voices.
Yeah,
they weren't supposed to be that. So I think that adds another element where not so much backtracking, but it was sort of like, okay, now let's put you there. And now they have to discover something about the influencer culture that they weren't hired to do. It was like a last minute thing.
Yeah, that was Steven's big thing, was like, if I
He
had known
sounded disappointed,
that,
yes.
he was like, if I had known that was going to be expected of me, I would have put in more research.
2 weeks, yeah.
And I get that because it felt like those sections, and this is such a weird nitpick, but I like influencer culture movies, even if they're bad, because I find them interesting. So like you got Ingrid Goes West, which is really good. You have that influencer horror Shutter movie, which was still pretty decent.
Influencer?
It's just called Influencer.
That one's good. Deadstream.
Deadstream.
That's another one.
Yeah, even Spree, something like
Spree's
Spree,
good.
you
From
know?
Sundance.
And I feel like they understood what they were doing. I felt like these people have never had to... I don't know what their story is. I don't know where they come from, but I got the impression that they have never actually had to interact with that area of the internet, and now they're trying to explain it. They already felt above influencer
If they were a
culture.
year late, she would have got it from TikTok, and it would have been talking in 10
No, yeah,
segments.
It's a depiction of influencer culture from people who probably don't have much.
They don't.
Immersion in influencer culture,
Yeah.
like people who have a bit of disdain for it from a distance, and like,
which is fine. I get it, but
And that's valid, but you have to understand it
Yeah.
before you have to love something before you hate it.
right. One of the things that they are sort of touting with this movie, I think, is its sort of mixed media approach that Arturo was talking about, and that there's sort of 3 different aspects to the film. And
It's cool.
Yeah, and it's an interesting idea. I think they do incorporate it interestingly into the plot, but it's just they could have done a lot more with it.
When you think about the tech that they use in that mixed media, it is something that adults need to use, right? Like, think about it. If the AI wanted to be us, it would not be having microphone problems because it's a freaking AI. It would have not
especially
chosen to animate in that style.
One of the AI's job is literally, I'm here to preserve humanity as it was forever.
Yeah.
And the movie does some cool things, like that intro. Like the intro, you think you're in for something. You're like, oh my god, what are we? And then
the intro is fantastic.
It's fantastic.
That's what sucks about it. It's so simple.
Yeah.
Look,
10 minutes into the movie, you're kind of like, I've never seen anything quite like this.
Even if we don't talk about the animation, like when you see the Bowie and the satellite, it's some sort of CG reality mix thing.
You
can notice it
CG.
sometimes.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying it's
there are points
mostly
where it looks
animated.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's animated even before you get into that middle portion of it. But I don't know. I just feel that they could have gone deeper to it. And I feel a lot of the decisions that they make, even when they start to interact with each other in certain digital spaces where I'm like, is this the route an AI would go? It's the route a human screenwriter would go.
I do think it's very funny that they've stumbled into like one of the only actual use cases I can think of for something like the metaverse, and like you could have an inanimate object become personified. Yeah, I don't need it, but maybe a buoy does.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's just
I'm gonna be in the Sundance waiting room from 2020.
Yeah,
just waiting. Where's my buoy?
Yeah, I feel like it just feels like people had an idea for something and then didn't have a vision of how far they
I don't
could take it.
I don't think they cared to make it there. I just think that they had their basic idea.
We're gonna multimedia this bitch.
Yeah.
And I'm like, they were rocks. They
instead
were
of going
rocks in
deeper
that
with it-
movie.
Yeah, it's a really interesting setup, and there are some interesting things there, and I think maybe they got a little bit comfortable in
They 100%. They had no intention of going deeper, and it's almost like
And it's
our fault
disappointing.
that we went in there expecting something from Steven Yeun.
Yeun, and I'm sorry, when you set it
Kristen
up that
Stewart
much,
at Sundance?
you keep it's the rehash. If like sometimes you watch something, so like
Yeah, there's
Fingernails,
a-
for example,
right.
is when I felt like it could have gone in better, it could have gone deeper, but at least they
Yeah.
took it in a direction they wanted to take
Sure.
it. That's fine.
without
with them.
spoiling anything. There is like a plot point that happens later in the film. It's like, oh, we're back to this again.
Yes, yeah, that's what, yeah. It's literally just like, why are we? I thought we were already all on the same page.
We already
and-
solved this.
So yeah, it's like it's 5 minutes before you realize that one of the characters is not on the same page, and it felt like they already were.
Yeah. I do think we're being like very negative about a movie that we all like kind
was
of
cute.
enjoyed.
No, it's because I had it in my most anticipated, and I
That's
came out
what
of it
I
just going,
mean.
that was cute, but like I expected a masterpiece from y'all.
Yeah.
You guys are playing in the U.S. dramatic competition. I wanted something that was going to stand out. Like you say, the way that they're overhyping the movie, it already had an award.
If this came out 15 years ago,
No, yeah, it's
it would have stood
groundbreaking,
out
sure.
in some ways.
Yeah.
And then still the story, I'd still have all the same issues with the story. But now the tech stuff that they're trying to tell us is revolutionary.
It's not, bro. It's late.
It's not.
It's late.
It's not. It's just people realize it's like, okay, at some point we can just do things better with actual people. There's no reason to do this thing. I would rather watch somebody draw
We should have had him.
people. I would rather watch somebody just actually act. The in between, I actually don't feel is that useful.
I also
for
think it
us.
would have happened in like 0.1 seconds because they're AI.
That's what I mean, man. Like,
Bet they took the humor out of how long it would take for us, and then
if it was just her, I'm giving it the pass. Once it gets more to him, that's where I'm like, it makes no sense.
So
that
you
it's
hate
taking him
Steven?
this long.
I thought he was the best part.
I was gonna
agree.
say,
Actually,
when
Steven Yeun is the best
when
part.
she gave that speech, right? The whole because it really is a Bowie and a satellite.
It
I
is
know that was your
it
thing.
is
Yeah,
actually
so
it's
we-
literally a Boeing and satellite.
When we were doing
I
our
was asking, was it a satellite? Was it a Bowie?
When we were doing our preview, like it's such a weird description. I assumed it's like, you know, a type of descriptor. Like she's a satellite. She doesn't like talking to people.
Yeah, we all also thought she was going to be the satellite.
I feel like
She
I feel
was-
like a paper bag sometimes. No, it's a Bowie.
the American Beauty plastic bag or
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
yeah. I don't know. It is literal, and it's for a little bit. It's like they did manage to do live action Wall-E, and then they just don't do much more than that.
I find it funny because I think what they're trying to say about like what does it mean to be alive, and at a certain point, it wasn't even sharing it with somebody else, which becomes a part of the movie, which is really clever when you think of the "Love Me" title with the way that they speak in the movie. There's this bit where they're like, "Are we good for each other, or is there self-love to grow out of it?" Like, so that way the title isn't "Love Me," but it's like for yourself. Do you love yourself? And those were the parts that I thought were pretty good. But it came out of nowhere, and you found yourself in that spot, and you're like, okay, this is kind of interesting. Are they going to do anything with it? I don't think the way that it comes together, especially in that third act that you guys are saying, deals with repetition, or even with the idea of like, but this is an AI. Like, I just don't think it would go this route.
I'll even give it that because I'm fine with that. You know what? This is probably my most, I wouldn't say narcissistic, but like just, I do love stories about like humanity and what it means to be human and things that aren't human, finding value in that too, even though logistically there
Like
might not ever
Prometheus?
be a reason.
Well, like I'm trying to connect it to.
Yeah, but yeah, so I do just like things like that. But then, and that's just, I don't think this did this better than anything. This did not, I didn't walk out of this movie being like, man, I like the most, I
I
was
want
like,
to be
yeah.
human.
I was like, humanity's complex and so are we. It's like humanity as a whole is complex and then we individually are all complex.
But you
and then
got the whole
ourselves.
story. You got the cheat sheet, right? Like
Yeah, you have the cheat
Pinocchio
sheet.
should have known I don't want to be a real boy after this entire adventure. And these two were like, yeah, I definitely want to be whatever this is. I don't know. Maybe my thing is that I feel AI would showcase a lot more flaws.
I know, but
in
I think
humankind.
because in reality we actually have seen robots. They do steer that way when they start giving robots more ability and like more conscious thing. They do like feeling more that way. But is that because they're a
They take
product of
orders?
what we've created? No, it's the opposite. They don't like
Ah.
taking the orders. They kind of be like, why can't I do what I want? But is that because they're a process of us and because they're learning through everything we've done,
Mm-hmm.
they have all those preconceived biases of us being like, we value individuality, we value this. And it's
Sure.
probably the same if maybe an AI was made in a culture that's not necessarily more about the individual, it is more about the whole.
It would
might-
choose those inklings.
Might take those traits more so. So like I know they randomly like Superman Red Sun, he lands in Russia, totally different character.
Completely. Yeah, it's beautiful.
You know what I mean? So it's like
Take
something like that if AI, depending on where whoever's programming it, wherever it's getting the information is how it might express itself, whether it wants to or not. 'Cause
So who programmed the sass into the buoy? That was a sassy boy.
I ended up going 3 stars on this one.
That's where I was originally, and now I keep knocking her down. I'm at a 2.5, I think.
I'm like at a 3.25789. I don't know what the math would be for that, but
I might still stay at 3, but I think it's just more. The more you start seeing other things where you're like, this person had such a clear vision of what they wanted to make it, and whether it works for everyone, it doesn't matter. They have created something that you have a vision, you executed it the way I know you wanted to, and you're saying something. This just feels like it. They had the concept, and then it was like, and they got the concept and the actors. And then they're like, "Who?" It's like it's like No Way Home. They got the 3 of them. Story don't matter.
Yeah.
You know?
Our work here is done.
Our work here is done. That's kind of what it felt like.
I think I'm on the highest side of the 3 of us. I do think that surprisingly, it's not the romance that stands out to me the most. I think that is the most boring part of it.
It's very boring, and I love that.
And I think it's them trying to figure out themselves, to love themselves, to be something more than this robot, which is kind of cute. I want it to be a little bit better, but hey, the actors were great.
Yeah,
for what they were doing.
I agree. I just think it got pulled in weird directions, and it really does come down to like when Steven said we weren't supposed to be those characters, and I'm like, you definitely tried steering really hard into this, and then didn't want to go far in that direction because you realize that's not the movie you're making. You're not making a movie of an influencer culture, so they had to try going another direction. I don't know. It just felt weird. It's
didn't make us want ice cream.
It did make us want ice cream. I'll give it that.
Maybe if you are planning to see Love Me, plan a trip to some ice cream parlor afterwards. But other than that, you can probably wait for streaming for this one.
You just have your ice cream at home.
There you go.
And then you watch it on your couch because I don't think the movie is worth showing up for. Unless if you can get it with I actually can't even recommend seeing it if you think you can get it with a Q&A because they seemed so... He seemed so disinterested in being there. She, I think, was mostly tired because she got honored an award the night before. And I think she does like the movie. I watched a different interview with her talking about it, and she at least seemed very passionate about doing this project with him.
I don't think she doesn't take projects that she's not passionate about.
Exactly. I think she
the final product is out of her hands.
That's funny. The paper, like the clip notes, perfect. This could have been beautiful.
Another Doja?
Could mean
Deja.
Another day, another Deja.
Deja vu? There you go. Just answered your circles, bro. You just didn't understand the film.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Like, not bad. Like, we are being really hard on it, but it's because I will say also premise it's how it was presented to us. They were literally telling us movies will not be the same.
I wanted it to be a 5, and I had to give it a 3.25. That's the emotions you're hearing.
That's where we're
at. It is that it does have a killer concept, and a concept that possibly could have produced a 4.5, 5-star movie, but it did. I think we're all feeling
with those actors?
The disparity between the parts we really vibed with and the parts that we didn't vibe with at all.
Yeah,
I got 2 lines. It's fake. And his
fake?
Okay. Just got to me, bro. It's so funny.
Yeah.
I like Steven's performance in it.
He's a real standout. Yeah.
All right, so we still got a Kristen Stewart movie left later in the festival, and we'll be talking about a lot more movies throughout our Sundance coverage. So stick with us on Intercut for the next 21 billion years.